Are you looking for the best place to visit for your vacation? Or maybe you already decided to come to Singapore, but you don't know what to do while you're here? Because on this travel guide, we're going to be heading to some of the coolest places, eating the best local street food, and even some secret destinations you don't want to miss. So here are all the top 10 things to do in Singapore. And first up, let's check out the most luxurious airport in the world. Because most airports in the world are boring and too expensive to do anything, but this airport in Singapore is on a different level. I'm telling you, once you get here, you won't even be interested in anything outside of the airport. Do you like movies? Here you can watch movies for free. Burning calories from powering up your phone? Check. The iconic waterfall is also found inside the shopping mall called Jewel, located between the terminals, but the water only starts coming down at 10 or 11 a.m. each day, so if you arrive too early, you won't be able to see it. The place is also known for hosting all sorts of festivals, like a Hello Kitty carnival, so it's easy to spend several hours here without even knowing. And once you're done, it's time to make your way downtown.
And the best and easiest way to go to the city is by taking a local train called the MRT, which you're about to see.
The MRT in Singapore basically connects everything, especially with the help of local buses. But the second thing you want to do in Singapore is to stop worrying about hotels, because Singapore has everything when it comes to hotels and apartments, catering to whatever budget you set for the trip, and taste of luxury. Want to live like a millionaire? Singapore has the most insane 5-star hotels you can possibly imagine.
So when I first came here, I was surprised by the hotel room being this big. Because Singapore is really small, I thought everything in it would be small. But these are way bigger than a typical studio apartment.
But if you want to save money while traveling, Singapore is literally the home of capsule hotels, and many of them have curtains if you want more privacy in your room. So even though Singapore is still one of the most expensive countries to travel to, it's still possible to keep your average hotel cost below $100 a day.
Some nice hotels already let you check in at 2 p.m. and checking out again at 12 p.m., which is pretty impressive if you think about it.
But now you have a place to stay, it's time to eat the best food in all of Asia. Because the third thing you want to do in Singapore is eat at a hawker center. Now if you're not familiar with that, a hawker center is basically an open-air food center with a bunch of stalls selling food, and it's literally crowded all day. But since they always say the best food in Singapore is not found inside a luxury restaurant, but over here, and the cheapest as well, I separately spent about $4 per meal eating here, and the dessert was only $1.30. So for all the rumors you heard about Singapore being too expensive, and you'd rather go to Thailand, based on my experience, it cost me way more money eating food in the cheapest countries like Vietnam and Malaysia than in Singapore. And the fourth best thing to do in Singapore is to go to the world's best amusement park, and that is Universal Studios in Singapore. As there are only 5 Universal Studios in the world at the time of this video, and the one in Osaka, Japan is flooded with tourists all the time. So if you want a trip to a park with all of your favorite characters like Shrek, Minion, and Jurassic Park without waiting forever in the line to take any ride, because everything here is super efficient and well organized, I believe you will love it here. Especially since the ticket was only $72 when I visited. Much cheaper than your typical Disney World.
It's recommended by most people to spend at least 6 hours at the park, and it closes at 7 p.m. so you might want to get there early.
Right now the park has 6 sections, with one coming real soon, where you have Hollywood and New York, a place called Sci-Fi City with Transformers, and the crazy roller coaster, Ancient Egypt, which is perfect for taking pictures, and the Lost World aka Jurassic Park, and the Kingdom of Faraway Wish Trap. Each section has its own unique restaurant. For example, you can literally eat Shrek as a waffle, or if you love curry, the ones in Ancient Egypt and Jurassic Park have all the curry you need.
And the food inside the restaurants is mostly $17, Singapore dollars of course, and a tiny can of soft drink can cost about $4, but they have free water machines if you need to refill, so it's a small money saving tip, I guess.
But there's one thing I have to warn you, is to check the weather report before coming here. Since the park is all about safety, if it looks like the rain is about to come, many of the outdoor attractions will sometimes be closed for safety reasons. So even though Singapore is always sunny, it's worth keeping that in mind to have the most fun in the park.
That section of the park, which will be about Minions, is set to open anytime in 2025. It looks pretty much finished, so if you're interested, you can check on their website for any updates.
But it only gets better in Singapore, because the 5th best thing to do here is to have the biggest cultural shock you wouldn't have in any other country. People don't call Singapore the melting pot of the East for no reason. And walking the streets of this diverse country and seeing how different cultures found their home in Singapore is already the most memorable experience. And they did a pretty good job of making sure you're reminded of what happened throughout history for Singapore to become the place you see today. A few spots I totally love would be the Guan Yin Temple, which I'll put the name on the screen so you can Google where it is, and the iconic Sri Vidama Kaliman Temple, built almost 1.5 centuries ago next to a place called Little India Arcade with some of the best food ever. And you can also visit the Indian Heritage Center and Masjid Angkuria and the famous Church of KKMC, all built around the same time, further proving just how Singapore is the friendliest city for everyone in the world.
Oh, I forgot to mention, the power plug in Singapore is one of those UK looking ones, where you have 3 sticks sticking out. So be sure to bring the right power adapter or one of those universal ones.
But what makes Singapore truly the best even amongst developed countries is the most impressive transportation system. As wherever you want to go, even the most deserted island, there's pretty much always a way to go there without driving or taking a taxi. But as opposed to how most people on the internet tell you to just use your credit card or mobile wallet to pay for the fare, I personally prefer getting this thing called the Easy Link card, which you can find at the MRT station at the airport and many other places for about $7.50. So you don't have to take out your credit card or smartphone every time you take the bus or metro.
But remember, those cards have expiration date. Mine is good for 5 years, but after that, they say you can return it back to the MRT station to get your refund.
But what you don't want to forget is all the do's and don'ts inside the MRT or buses, like no eating and drinking, no smoking, and most importantly, no diarrhea. Singapore is known for making everything illegal, and trust me, you don't want to break any of them.
Now you will see that some of the seats are red color, meaning they're priority seats for people in need. But if you look up on the internet who should take the seat, is still a fierce debate. So I try to avoid it as much as possible.
But what you won't have to avoid is the 7th best thing to do in Singapore, which is going to the local night market. As Singapore is known for being a city that never sleeps and is generally considered a place with the best nightlife. So even you come back too late, like spending too much time at the Universal Studios, there's still plenty of time to do all the shopping as well as eating all the food. And the most iconic night market has to be the Chinatown Street Market located on Pagoda Street. And many of the historic buildings I mentioned earlier would light up like this at night, so it feels like walking inside the storybook. But so far you might think that Singapore is all about the big city life with nothing to do in nature. But that's when the 8th best thing in Singapore comes into play, and that is going to Pulau Ubin, the perfect place to escape the bustle of city life. As just a quick 10 to 15 minute ride from the Changi Point Ferry Station will take you to this amazing hidden gem that you don't even know exists when talking about Singapore. And here you can rent a bike to cycle around the beautiful island, or you could just take a walk. They told me the monkeys on the island are friendly and they're not afraid of humans, but they don't want you to feed the monkeys or bring any food around just to be safe.
This might be the emptiest place in all of Singapore. I came on weekday and there's literally nobody.
But instead of the emptiest, well, we go to the most beautiful place in Singapore, and that is CHIJMES. At least that's how my friends over here pronounce it, as I heard it used to be the part of a church, but now it's become the one place for the most luxurious restaurants, cafes, and wedding parties. And right next to it, you'll find the National Museum of Singapore, as beautiful if you wish to learn about the history for a couple of dollars. And the 10th best thing to do is the world's famous Marina Bay with the statue of Merlion. Whenever you come here, it's always packed with tourists, so if you want the perfect picture with only you and the statue, or the iconic hotel of Marina Bay Sands, you might have to be extremely lucky, or just use editing software to make everyone disappear.
But there's still so much to see here, so even if you're spending a whole week, you still wouldn't be able to see and experience everything. As even though Singapore is roughly the size of New York City, maybe a bit smaller, but the place is filled with the coolest stuff you can find anywhere on the planet, and even the most beautiful views. So are you ready to come here right now or not?
But when I first came to Singapore, it was totally not what I expected, and you can click on the video to find out what happened.